This webinar was originally recorded in June 2026. It discusses the ZenGuide product roadmap and planned features at that time. Product capabilities and release timelines may have changed since this recording. For the latest information, please contact your Proofpoint representative.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nick McClay. I'm the Senior Director of Product Management here at Proofpoint for our ZenGuide and human risk products. In terms of the overall agenda today, we have a couple areas I want to talk about in general, where our priorities are from a focus area perspective, the key things we're investing in 2026. I'll go over some recent releases, things that have come out to the platform relatively recently that people might have missed that are valuable for you. We'll talk about some coming soon features, things that are coming out as soon as the end of this month, as well as things through the rest of Q3, actually, things that will be coming out before our Protect User conference in September. And then I do have a longer point of view on our future roadmap for Q4 and beyond that I'll touch on, including some key innovations we have in agentic AI that I want to go through. In general, there are 4 key areas we're investing into this year that we have a number of programs and initiatives around. First is the Human Resilience Workbench, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. This is our expansion into human risk management through ZenGuide, what we're doing to bring in a wider variety of risk signals beyond just security awareness training and phishing simulation behaviors. We see a view into risk reduction through risk-based programs that can automate enrollment for users that exhibit risky behavior. And we think Human Resilience Workbench plays a key role in that. So we'll go through that in a bit more detail, but in general, this has been a large investment for us, and it's a relatively new product we're offering that's connected deeply to ZenGuide. Expanding customization is another area. We've received a lot of feedback from customers that want to be able to better tailor the content we offer for their organizations. That includes simple things like brands and logos, but also things like their language translation options or content that speaks to specific organizational policies, or just giving more flexibility in general for recognizing learner preferences for content like language. So we'll go through a number of customization enhancements we have planned, including module translations and module customization that we're working on. And we hope that this is something that we can continue to enhance going forward, especially as we talk about the third item on here, which is leveraging agentic AI to scale programs. And it shouldn't surprise anybody in 2026 that 2026 is definitely the year of AI, insofar as there's been a huge improvement in what these agents are capable of doing, the jobs that they're able to solve for. And from our perspective, we're looking to modernize the way our platform interacts with AI in order to leverage it more effectively for saving admins time, primarily through program automation and what we're able to offer there, but also through ability to generate risk insights, visibility into which groups are most at risk in your organization, what to do about it from a recommendation perspective. And then we'll also be able to invest into this for content with purposes of generating content, which we'll see some examples of today as well. And then last but not least is integrating deeply with the Proofpoint platform. Proofpoint as an ecosystem of security products offers many different types of threat protection and data protection offerings. We want to make sure that we can streamline our customers' user experience with accessing those tools and viewing data seamlessly, but also we're looking to better leverage threat content integration into ZenGuide. We recently introduced Threat Flip, which is our ability to take real threat-driven content from your email protection offering and turning it into phishing simulation in ZenGuide. We're very interested in continuing to drive that threat-led aspect of our platform going forward. These represent the kind of high-level focused objectives we have for the product, and we'll touch on some items in our roadmap for each of these as we go through today. Next, we'll talk about recent releases. These are things that actually are available today for customers to take advantage of. And I want to start with the Human Resilience Workbench I just mentioned. Human Resilience Workbench is a new product. It is something that not every ZenGuide customer has license or access rights to, but it is built on top of the capability set of the ZenGuide platform and offers a broader view into human risk from bringing in risk signals from other Proofpoint products, as well as key partner products that we'll talk about. The key thing to know here is that today this is available for customers that have what we call our Prime or collaboration protection solution bundles from Proofpoint. We do expect to potentially expand availability of Human Resilience Workbench in the future, so stay tuned for more information on that. But I do want to give just a high-level review of what the tool is, what it offers today, and how it's different than the ZenGuide platform. Human Resilience is really based on something we've talked about previously, which is our DICE methodology, which stands for Detect, Intervene, Change Behavior, and Evaluate. And it's how we see organizations modernizing their approach to human risk beyond traditional security awareness compliance programs. The idea being that we need to have signal ingestion to view where risky user behaviors are happening. We need to have automations that can intervene with users with targeted content that's relevant to that risky behavior. We need to be able to monitor those users over time to see if their behavior does change or if we can, in fact, follow up for different users in different motivational contexts to try to get them to change behavior. And of course, we need to send the results back and evaluate the outcomes of your programs to ensure they're effective. And we do this in the Human Resilience Workbench through having some new tools at our disposal, most notably risk scoring and risk profiles. And the idea is that all of the different signals we are ingesting, we're aggregating together in the Human Resilience Workbench to generate these organizational, departmental, and individual risk scores. And that also gives us trend analysis over time about which users are being introduced to which risk groups and how trends of risk are changing in the organization over time and which behaviors are driving those changes. And so this provides another level of metrics and visibility into where user risk is concentrated in your workforce, as well as through the power of the Human Resilience Workbench, what you can do about that risk to mitigate it. The way that that works, because you might be asking which signals can come into this, what's available to ingest, and the answer is that from the Proofpoint platform, we support a range of products, including our target attack protection, ZenGuide, data protection products, CASB, and also we have a new product that we've added to the portfolio recently, Acuity, which is primarily focused on the risk related to AI usage in your organization. These all represent products that generate risk signals of different types. Some are based on, for example, simulation behavior, users clicking on phishing simulation, that's a ZenGuide signal. Some that are based on user privilege, who your VIP users are, or who your very attacked users are, that's coming from TAP. And some use cases might be risk of users that are not actually doing anything behaviorally wrong, perhaps, but are in fact highly risky insofar as their level of privilege and access to sensitive information of utilization of tools like AI, which can multiply the scale impact if they are taking risky actions. And those are signals we would see from, example, our DLP product or from Acuity. These can be ingested into our risk engine. The risk engine is there to pull these signals in. We aggregate it on a 24-hour cycle. We update all the user references to those risks. And then those are aggregated into risk scores at an individual user level and also into risk profiles. And risk profiles are really where we see the adaptive groups of who your risky users are that you can act on through the Human Resilience Workbench. Those risk profiles, as I mentioned earlier, look somewhat similar to our adaptive groups we offer in ZenGuide, but with a key difference being that they're representing our user risk score that is fluctuating over time, as well as is attached to recommended actions you can take on those user groups to drive that risk down. Today, we're focused on the recommended actions we can offer through ZenGuide for delivering training and awareness, assessing vulnerability through phishing simulation. But over time, we do expect to expand that to more policy-based controls, including things like elevated monitoring or the ability to trigger browser isolation, for instance, through users that represent significant risk to the organization based on behavior. When a user is pulled into a risk group inside of it, HRW, one of the things you'll notice is that you have the ability to view a recommendation in that group. And this recommendation is actually content that we provide out of the box for program recommendations we think would help mitigate this risk. So for example, looking at the VIP clickers risk profile, we're talking about a group of users that are highly privileged in the organization that represent clicking risk, both from phishing simulation as well as real clicks from our email protection of phishing attacks. And we're able to recognize in that group through communications that are tailored for an executive audience, assignment that might be targeted on sort of content that's meaningful for that audience, simulation content that's valuable or reasonable to assess the risk, and then also follow-up communications for their engagement in the program. We provide these recommendations out of the box, and you can click on the Create button to leverage that and create a pathway from HRW directly inside of your Pathways workflow. But this sort of model is something we'll revisit a little bit when we talk about agentic AI, because there's a lot of opportunity to improve on this from a generative AI perspective as we talk about tailoring for specific companies' needs versus the generic groups that we provide out of the box. And then even if you're not an HRW customer today or are not able to acquire Prime or Collab Protection, I would emphasize that you are getting improvements from this in the core ZenGuide platform as well. Most notably, we've added a new Awareness Insights tab for detailed user behavior that's available for all customers to take advantage of. It's part of our user management part of the ZenGuide platform. When you navigate to a user, you can drill down into a user and visit the Awareness Insights tab, and this will be populated with the awareness risk data that we actually push along to Human Resilience Workbench, but it's available for all ZenGuide customers to view as well. So you can look at a specific user's behavior trends over time, their reported email performance, their training performance, and their phishing campaign performance over time in one view. All right, so that sort of wraps up the Human Resilience Workbench. There are a lot of value beyond what we offer in the core ZenGuide capabilities. Of course, this is tied again to the larger platform value proposition and what we can do with Proofpoint's products. But if you are interested in learning more about Human Resilience Workbench, please reach out to your account manager or the CSM team to learn more. And it is something that we're definitely interested in customer feedback, as we just recently shipped this new product. Moving on to the learner dashboard, it's been an area of investment for us over the last 6 months or so. We've modernized what we can offer in terms of the end user experience, providing much more granular activity feeds for users to understand what secure actions have contributed to their learner score. And this is something we really see as part of that change behavior mindset of how can we motivate users to care about their own behavior and see the secure actions they take as making progress towards achieving better security outcomes. One of the big improvements we recently shipped is learner badges. Learner badges is something that actually recognizes security milestones or achievements for the user for taking secure actions for the first time. We offer badges for a variety of tasks, including reporting suspicious email, completing training on time, and there's one that I think is really exciting, which is this reporting a real phishing email. For customers that have our Trap and Clear offering, our ability to pull risky emails out at scale that users recognize and flag as malicious, we can actually recognize that as a secure behavior for your users through a special badge that will be visible to them on their learner dashboard. There's also in the badges page itself, it sort of serves as an achievement list of sorts. So for people that might be used to video games or experiences where you can see what badges exist, this helps provide sort of a white space that users can fill with their own secure behavior. And so the badges view gives some visibility into what other opportunities there are for secure behavior in your organization. You can, of course, customize and control which badges are visible for your users in your organization. And we do see value in providing more customization options to these badges to better align with organizational brands or tone for your workforce. But in general, this is the first big step towards this gamification vision and providing some more granular incentives for users through these digital rewards in the platform. Another tool we rolled out was our streak bonus for phishing simulation reporting, which is an ability to gain bonus points for users that sequentially report suspicious email. This is something that's pretty important from a motivation perspective because we're trying to create power user reporters that will go through and not just report one time, but every phishing simulation they see, an opportunity to grow that point score so they become more and more vigilant looking for them. And of course, there are badges associated with building to a certain streak bonus as well. If a user clicks on a phishing simulation or they miss one in their simulation queue, they will reset back to the beginning of the streak and have to build it back up. But it's a very simple motivational mechanic and can be very valuable also for things like phishing derbies or other kinds of engagement opportunities you might want to run with your workforce. Another exciting feature we shipped recently was our AI fish hooks and teachable moments capability. This is a new tool that lets you generate dynamic teachable moments in Pathways for a phishing simulation. The idea here is that we would go through and scan the email content. It can be our email content, it could be a custom template, or it could be something from our threat flip content, for instance. We'll look for NIST fish scale threat cues that we note inside the email. We'll call those out and highlight them for the user. And then this is something that would be delivered to the user when they click on the phishing simulation in a phishing email that they received. We also brought this experience to the learner dashboard as part of what we call the Fish Log page. Fish Log is actually a trophy case for users of all the mail that they've reported as well. But if you click on a phishing lure, it actually will provide you also visibility into those risk factors, that why this email was risky in the first place, what they should be on the lookout for going forward. It also provides some key metrics to the user about what the report and failure rate was of that phishing template, which can be great from sort of recognizing a really hard challenge that they actually did succeed in detecting, or something that if they did click on it, they know they're not alone, that another percentage of your workforce also did click on it. So these kinds of enhancements are relatively newer in the learner dashboard, but really want to make sure everyone was aware of them. And then last but not least, on the recently released, we know that not all of our customers are Microsoft customers. Some use Google. We did just recently introduce a new native Gmail reporting integration for our report suspicious capabilities. This is something that integrates into Gmail in a much more natural way than the add-on that we currently support. The idea is that this is actually leveraging the existing report workflows inside Gmail, similar to our integrated Microsoft reporting, to pull that email and push it into our analytics and reporting, as well as qualify for the user whether the mail was a phishing simulation or a training assignment or other safe listed mail. So if you are a Google customer, definitely take a look into this. It's relatively new, and it should be a much more natural end user reporting experience for your users. All right, we're going to move forward into coming soon. These are things that are literally through the end of this month into Q3 to our Protect User Conference. As we start moving forward in time, I will emphasize things become a little bit less certain than things we obviously have delivered, but these are things that are relatively sure that we will be delivering over the next quarter for you, things you can be excited about that are coming to the platform soon. So the first is building on top of that teachable moment fishhook experience I showed. We do get a lot of feedback from customers. They want more granular control of those teachable moments, the ability to translate that content, the ability to manage the fishhook phrases and being able to personalize them for their organization's policies. And of course, the ability to use custom teachable moments in general and pathways. So I can confirm that this is something we're working on coming out the end of this month. We expect this to be shipping relatively soon to help support those customization needs. And this also applies to that focus area I mentioned earlier around content customization. The really big customization story is also coming online for the first flavor at the end of June, which is our new interactive module editing experience. We've received a lot of feedback from customers that were sad that we were moving away from Customization Center and what we could offer towards our SCORM-based content. We still think SCORM content is necessary for many workforces to take the modules and move them into their LMS, but we wanted to provide some more levels of flexibility for customers to tailor the specific messaging, titles of content, branding elements of those modules that they deliver to their users. And so we will be rolling out a new customization tool that will allow you to make translation edits, that will allow you to customize and tailor the visible text boxes inside of our interactive modules. This will be launching with a limited set of modules initially, but every new module we publish will also have this text editing capability, and we will be over time replacing and modifying the content with these customizable versions going forward. So be aware this is a big step forward from our customization perspective on the modules. It is something that's very much a manual editor right now, but we also see some opportunities to leverage this technology going forward, similar to our fishhook style teachable moments to do generative content production. So look forward to more on that in the future, but know that this is something you do have in your tool chest to be able to adjust and tailor the content for your workforce if needed based on these modules that we provide. Another personalization aspect we get asked a lot about is branding and imagery that is reused frequently in the content delivered to users. That includes things such as the brand center, which is something we'll be introducing in Q3 to provide a place where you can define those logos, colors, and consistent design elements for easy reuse through your training modules, your notification templates, and your teachable moments. So this is a big step forward on sort of where do we want to provide an answer for customers about how do I make these communications and messages and modules authentic to my workforce, something that represents our brand and company look and feel. So here's an example of that applied in a company that has a particular logo, as well as a primary activation color of a purple color. This is something that you would see in a generated notification template, for instance, that you'd be able to deliver to your workforce to qualify what those things look like and make sure that they reflect from those global settings you had in the brand center. So this is something that'll come online in Q3. It'll obviously help and support interactive module customization as well as other generative content production capabilities in our platform, and is something we think will continue to refine and add more customization options to going forward in a consolidated way inside the ZenGuide platform. Another thing coming in Q3 are some enhancements to learner experience. Most notably, we have this learner security score available for end users to engage with. But what about admins? What if you're trying to look at this from a department view, your most engaged user view? Maybe you want to use it for leaderboards for fishing derbies or other activities where you're trying to measure over a short period of time increase in user engagement, maybe provide some rewards or recognition for those users. We will be adding some new reporting tools to the admin dashboard for these learner engagement reports. They'll let you do the same things you can do on other reports on that dashboard, including having the group by feature so you can extract specific user groups that meet certain thresholds of scores, or being able to export the data in general so you can use it for internal program purposes. I also think we'll look to more automation options to leverage the user engagement score. Things like our users that we might want to be able to communicate in a user digest sense, what their scores are, how their scores have changed over a period of time. And all of this is sort of building out those capabilities on utilizing the learner score inside of the platform as a way to recognize your most engaged learners from a behavior perspective. Another kind of improvement that's coming in Q3 is some improvements to our general support and knowledge-based tools around the product. Most notably, we will be rolling out a new ZenGuide community page. This is the portal where if you, for example, create a support ticket, or if you're looking for an article or documentation, you'll visit this portal. We're consolidating the knowledge-based portals across the Proofpoint portfolio, including the ZenGuide community, into one new portal experience. This will be available sometime in Q3 for customers to navigate to. It will have all the existing functionality and information that the current knowledge base does, but because it's consolidated into one portal, we have some advantages from maintaining and supporting it more actively through new features such as AI chatbots to answer questions and other kinds of knowledge base improvements that we can offer to make it more valuable for customers that are looking for specific information. It also means if you're looking for information about integrations, you don't have to bounce between different products to get to all the information. It will all be inside one knowledge base. In general, we're trying to make sure that the look and feel of these things is more consolidated going forward. Similarly, we also have an update to a new feedback portal that will be coming online in a similar time frame. This is very similar to the community story. This is bringing all of the product experiences together, having the product feedback channels be consolidated so that we can view all your feedback in one place from all of the different Proofpoint products you might have. This also is going to allow, for the first time ever, some new subscription functionality, which has been a very popular ask for customers that submit feedback. They want the ability to take their feedback, and when it's updated by the product team, get a notification about those changes or be able to know if their status changes about a feature that they asked for. And this new platform will allow us to do that. So look forward to this. There will be more information coming as we get ready to roll this out for general users. But the idea is to continue to provide a streamlined, consistent reporting experience. Right here, it'll show you a quick example of the workflow. It'll still be tied to the same part of the core product through the resource center. When you click on the share your feedback button, it will take you to the feedback module. And where today it is a form that you input the information into, the new one will be a button that will take you to the portal and allow you to submit the feedback there. But it will all be single sign-on, very easy to navigate and access. And as I mentioned before, you will have the option to opt into notifications for status updates of your feedback as well. One of the features I'm most excited about that we're working on for our Protect User Conference in the fall is we're going to be adding language segmentation support to Pathways. Pathways, as we've talked about previously, is where we're trying to modernize a lot of our workflow solution for ZenGuide around how we orchestrate assignments, phishing simulations, communications. Segmentation of language has been a very popular customer ask for phishing campaigns, for instance, for some time. The ability to say, I'm trying to target 10 different languages for a common phishing campaign today requires you to create 10 different pathways or 10 different phishing campaigns inside of our platform. Instead, we think we can provide a single workflow to define a phishing campaign around a shared audience that has multiple different language preferences. We can define user language preferences in advance through sync with identity provider solutions, such as Entra ID, Okta, or SCIM, or through bulk upload to be able to provide those user language preferences. And then we'll offer new tools that allow you to segment that pathway so that the content that users receive is already translated for them in their natural language they want to receive it in through the same pathway. And so these new tools introduce the ability to offer this automatic language detection, the ability to define the fallback language preference for if the language is not available in the content, what to show. And then we also are going to be adding new AI translation options to fill in the blanks. So for example, I don't speak French, but if I had a phishing program that also included French users, I could actually add France as a language and use AI to translate the content for those gaps that are not covered by the content's natural language translation. We already do that today for modules and phishing templates. Communication templates are the main form of translation that we're going to be providing, but we will also offer it for other content when it's not available in that language. So we see this as a really big step forward on really streamlining and taking some of the work out of the job of providing large multinational phishing programs that need to support multiple languages. You can also obviously use this for any communications and messaging you provided the end user. But there still is often a lot of work in sort of figuring out how do I wire these things together. Pathways and its sort of combination of different activity types can be a little more complicated than a traditional phishing or training campaign to do that. And so to that end, we are working on one of our utilizations of agentic AI around being able to provide an intelligent program agent capability. And the goal of the program agent is to really help users understand what are the tools and capabilities at my disposal that can help me set up my programs for success. How can I take steps out of the process to automate that so that I don't have to spend as much time or effort tinkering with it? And in general, how can I move more and more towards a human risk-based approach and less of a sort of, making everything fit into a compliance model from a phishing or training perspective? And for that, the phishing program agent is our answer to be able to answer how do we get this content into the right shape in a way that works through pathways and with our platform. So the way that this will work is that similar to the way we talked about risk profiles being provided out of the box for the Human Resilience Workbench, we're also going to have these smart learning paths available, both in Human Resilience Workbench and in ZenGuide, that will provide some visibility into some potential program types that you can run through the product. These are just recommendations. You can also create from scratch, but we'll go ahead and follow an example here of just creating a group for VAPs, for instance. Clicking on the VAP group, you'll end up in an interactive dialogue with an agent. This agent is going to provide to you what it thinks it can do out of the box for this user group. You can actually engage with it in natural human language chatbot experience to have it refine or to clarify what options it has available to use. And then ultimately what you'll end up with is a reviewable pathway. And this is really where the sort of AI native experience of what we're building with the program agent shows its benefit, which is that you'll have a side-by-side helper to help you coordinate changes you want to make with the tools that exist inside Pathways from an audience selection perspective, from a automation perspective, and from an activities perspective to help really frame and refine and tailor what you're doing for your programs in a way that you can choose either to use the agent to help you or to do it yourself through the existing editable tools inside of Pathways. So we think this is going to be a great way to, for example, leverage tools like that language segmentation, because you'll be able to direct the agent to take an audience and segment it by language, and it will go ahead and scaffold out that program around that language segmentation with the phishing content and the communications you want. So we think this can have a huge multiple in time savings for customers, rapidly driving down the scope of difficulty in coordinating and scheduling all these campaigns inside the platform. And of course, we think this also has a lot of value going forward as we talk about more and more personalization capabilities coming to our platform through AI. Getting this right for campaigns, we think will set the framework so that we can apply it for other segmentations such as phishing level of difficulty, individual user role, or other kinds of segmentation we might want to offer as well. As we turn out to Q4, let's give the general caveat I said earlier. We're starting to get outside of the immediate future, things that we're working on long term. And so some of this is going to become a little bit more, we'll say, changeable between now and its delivery date. So just be aware of that. I'm going to show some mock-ups of workflows here, but the idea is that these are very much subject to change as it relates to what it looks and functions like, its scope, etc. But I'm going to give you a general picture of how we see the future of the product evolving on top of that program builder agentic experience I just showed. In general, what we're trying to do is incorporate the components of being threat-led from a content perspective, risk signal based through the visibility of what we're bringing in knowledge about user behavior into HRW, and our automation and workflow capabilities of Pathways to bring sort of a continuous risk management flywheel story to the product. The idea is that we want to be able to ingest those signals for both training simulation, but also hopefully wider human risk signals. We want to be able to interpret them through analysis using AI to point out what we notice is risky that you could act on, providing recommendations, providing rationalizations, and clarifying priorities that you can help engage with and understand what you should act on. And then, of course, we want to be able to actually set up our programs through Pathways to run and operate, including acting on user risky behavior by providing more targeted training and simulation for those users that we can follow up on them automatically. And the goal should be to reach a system that can sort of reach an equilibrium automatically through that AI support in the platform. The key things to note here that we're investing into is there's a couple specific agent problems we want to solve. And so we've already talked about, for example, program agent as it relates to what we're doing in Pathways to co-create and optimize your programs for specific goals, being able to take a lot of the work out of the effort of producing those programs. We have two other agents, though, that we need to execute on. One is an insights agent, which is about providing more quantified information to the program agent, but also to the admin about where their users are, what actions and opportunities there exist for behavior modification, and in general, better helping understand and explain the toolkit inside of the product as well as the user situation on the ground from a risk perspective. There's also the opportunity for the actual in-the-moment education experience to be enhanced in a threat-led way that would actually tie where the user is and their specific behaviors to content that's relevant to them because it represents a cybersecurity risk. And what can we do to thread that needle in a more automatic way, in a more real-time way? And that's something we've been exploring through what we call SmartPath Agent. So I'll give you a little bit of a picture of both the scope of what we think these agents are going to be responsible for, and in general, how that will evolve going forward to really bring the AI native story of what we're doing with Human Resilience Workbench and ZenGuide more to the forefront of how it's used by our customers. So the first thing I'll start is the insights agent. This is similar in some ways to the program agent, but it's really much more on the sort of what is the state of the data that exists in here? How do I answer common questions about my data? How can I pull ad hoc reporting together out of the results, and being able to help qualify investments I might make through future programs I want to run inside of the product. And so a couple of key things that we'll highlight for customers. One is obviously organizational benchmarking and performance information at a high level, that trend analysis of how risks have changed over time in HRW, for instance. We also want to highlight through the usage of tools like Pathways what the investments that have been made and the outcomes of them are from an automation perspective, making sure that the effort involved and time saved is clearly highlighted. And insofar as you can engage with these tools that are able to do quite in-depth research and analysis of your users and their risky behavior and what content is relevant for them, you will reach a point where there may be a need that goes beyond what we're going to offer customers out of the box for insight. And so to support that, we will be looking to integrate with Proofpoint Satori initiative, which is actually a company-wide initiative to build agents for many different security jobs, including security awareness phishing simulation, but also for the email protection team, for the data protection SOC team, different tools that can scale with usage-based costs so that we are actually able to scale the availability of it to what your scale of your asks of it are. And so Satori you should see as sort of the options you'll have to go beyond the basics that we're going to provide to every customer with AI. And if you have the option to require it to do much more work, you'll have that flexibility and freedom to do so as an additional cost for running the Satori agent. So something we'll start with is just having these available for customers to use with some limit-based pricing for this analysis or for those program automations. And Satori is sort of the escape valve for how can you get more out of the system as you're finding value in it. You'll have those ability to utilize those systems more. The other agent we talked about was the SmartPath agent, which is more focused on the end user capabilities. And what are we going to be able to do to bring messages to users in the context of specific risks that they're facing? And how do we qualify those risks in a way that matter for who those users are? And so we've looked at this in the past through various types of intervention technologies. One of the most prevalent in our customers is email warning tags and our ability to provide messaging that's contextualizing the risk of a specific email to a user. We think there's an opportunity to overlap the email warning tags user experience with insights from a human risk and user motivation perspective to provide more qualified user coaching and tutorials to users in the context of real emails or real threats. So think, for example, the ability to take an email that's potentially malicious, wrapping it in a fishhook to explain to a user why it might be risky, and then asking the user whether they want to release the email or report it as suspicious. And these are capabilities that to some extent exist inside of our email warning tags and other kinds of adaptive email protection and Proofpoint. But the ability to brand and tailor these, to design them for specific languages, and to be able to communicate to users that are at the highest risk in your organization differently than your everyday email warning tag is something we're very interested in applying AI to being able to define an end user agent experience that's qualifying what communications to give to specific users in a personalized way. So we'll be talking more about this at our Protect conference. We see this as something that really bridges the gap from just being an awareness tool that can bring phishing and training content to bringing in a more robust view of human risk. And then, of course, now coming back around to the end user about what can we do to qualify that education for those individual end users. And then the last feature I want to talk about for Q4 is something that may be not relevant for all customers, but is very important for certain markets, which is recent changes around privacy laws and labor protections in countries that require a higher level of user privacy and data handling. This is something we're seeing in many different regions for many different multinational companies that have a need to make sure that certain user groups, for example, German Workers' Council employees, have specific sort of data anonymization rights that have to be respected, even in programs like phishing simulations. And so what we're going to be introducing are some new options to define privacy-enabled users built on the same backbone as our adaptive group capabilities we offer today. So you can provide a rules-based definition for who your data privacy users are. And you'll still have the ability in our platform to define targeted automatic enrollments through things like pathways or other kinds of adaptive group activity. But you'll be able to do so in a way that maintains user anonymization of which users are included in those activities in order to match those legal requirements and expectations in those markets. So just to give an example of how this will work at scale, for instance, you would have the ability to define who your risky user or who your privacy-enabled users are. They might be a subset of your workforce. They might be your entire workforce. That's sort of your choice to make. You can still define groups based on individual user behavior, such as repeat clickers, but you won't be able to see if those users are privacy enabled, that they're inside that group. You're going to see an anonymized entry for that. But the secret is that we know that those users, who they are, and we are able to still track and attribute behaviors to them and enroll them into follow-up activities and training. But in every downstream activity the user is engaged with, that activity will be anonymized to the admin. So you'll have the ability to protect the user's privacy at the individual user level or the manager level. And we will still have the ability to run, for example, models that would enroll users based on risky actions into targeted training or content. You also get the benefit of global program results that are still aggregated and visible at a global level. So if you still want to know about your global phishing rates or assignment completion rates or use the results API, all those will continue to work. They're just going to share anonymized user records back for users that are protected by those privacy rules. So we think this is a pretty robust improvement to user privacy controls in ZenGuide. It's something that we're excited about for customers that want to be able to leverage automation of our platform, but have some really hard limitations on what they can know about their employees' behaviors to do so. We think that this will really help carve out a middle ground that'll work for both parties. And that wraps up everything I had prepared to talk about today. I see we have a little bit of time. Maybe if there's a couple questions that haven't been answered yet or anything that makes sense, I'm happy to answer any questions. There was a question about as overall documentation or PDF for the learner dashboard, separate articles and community for support. I do believe everything is inside community. I can check if there is a consolidated documentation. I think it might, as you might be able to tell, there's a lot of investment that's gone on there recently. So I definitely think that that's something that we would expect to see continuing new articles being published to the community as new features become available. But I can definitely take that one back to the team and ask if there's any opportunity to improve the documentation going forward. Does the improvement on multilingual in Pathway include notifications by email? Yes, it does. So it improves notification and communication tools will also become multilingual, which will really help with the ability to deliver messages and communications that are appropriate for that user's language preference. But yeah, we are looking at it as a Pathways level feature, and training content and communications are part of Pathways. Would the SmartPath agent work in conjunction with the external email manager or as a replacement? That's a great question. So I think the thing to think about is we think SmartPath should be more personalized, the end user in the risk context. So we don't think it's every user. We think it's the riskiest users, and it would be layered on top of the fundamental email warning tags protection. We're not trying to turn off the email warning tag. We're trying to say in a context where a user would receive an email warning tag, and they're very at risk for this type of attack, can we do something above and beyond a traditional email warning tag? But because we're going to be using AI for the personalization aspects of that, we also do think that there's some scaling implications we want to be able to manage for. And so we're not assuming it will be delivered to every user in your workforce. Anything soon or coming on smishing? Yeah, we do offer for customers today, just so you're aware, we do offer smishing. It is a managed service only offering today. We have looked at self-service and we'll continue to explore it, but generally speaking, from a regulatory perspective, there are very strong limitations on what we can offer for both SMS and phishing capabilities. We do realize there's some vendors in the market that are providing other capabilities there, but generally speaking, we've gotten very clear communication from the mobile network operators that this is actually without a consent management system and also air traffic control from our perspective, there's not an acceptable use case of smishing for enterprise organizations. So it does provide a reason for us to offer it as a managed service so that we can guarantee regulatory compliance with those capabilities. And interested in what other API connecting to services for HRM outside of Proofpoint? We're a large company, a lot of tools. Absolutely, Eddie. So yeah, we do offer, for example, integration with CrowdStrike. We're looking at deeper integration with Microsoft Defender as a data source, and we're looking for recommendations about what other products customers are interested in. I've heard requests for SentinelOne. I've heard requests for Dashlane. I think for us, that's a great use of product feedback to let us know what products matter most to you that you want to bring risk signal in from. But yeah, we will definitely be looking at third-party integration as part of the human resilience workbench story going forward. All right. The AI agent help in selecting, recommending appropriate training modules after a phishing failure. Correct. So just to be totally transparent, absolutely that's the intention. Where we're going to draw the scope for our Protect conference, it might just be phishing content only. We're trying really hard to get training recommendations in there as well. I would say by the end of the year, absolutely. But realistically, where we're going to be by September, just be aware that's sort of on the bubble. But the intention is 100% absolutely. We want to get to training as well. And of course, the point of Pathways is to be able to make the bridge between phishing and training much more trivial to navigate. So that is the intended vision for where we want to go with that program builder agent. But yes, there will be more to come on that for sure. Will there be more training modules related to development, such as secure coding standards or coding with AI? That's a great question, Nick. In general, we do have a small collection of what I'd call like developer modules and content. Most of it's focused on the new OWASP standard that we've released. We do get asked for this. Candidly, it is something that's a very specific subject area. We don't have any plans today to add more development, secure behavior training, or secure coding training. It's something that if there's an interest in, please submit feedback for. We do actively look at what customers are requesting for consideration of new topics and modules, but it is something that we periodically see, but we have some what we think are good, strong foundational modules, but not necessarily the deep coding modules that maybe everyone is you might want to look at specifically for AI application. Will there be a plan to have a 2026 cybersecurity awareness campaign? When we expect this posted? I could be wrong, but I believe it is available today, actually. We publish those really early on now, so people have them to reference. I believe there's a new campaign in the content library, so check out the 2026 campaigns in the content library. You should see something in there for Security Awareness Month. Will AI be used in creating phishing simulations using prompts to make them highly customizable? Yes. So I think where we're going with what we're doing is to move towards more and more of a personalization model through AI. We're starting with campaign level because there still is a lot of needing to handle apples to apples performance comparison, which campaigns are better for. But we do see the value in being able to run more personalized phishing down the road. The SmartPath agent is sort of our first foray into user personalization through AI, but I do expect that we will also see we'll say, phishing simulation equivalent of that capability. And so I would say stay tuned on that, but I would say yes, we definitely will eventually get to that through what we're offering with this agentic AI approach. And then can an admin see the top users, badge winners, etc. from the learner dashboard? Not from the learner dashboard, but those learner leaderboard reports that I showed earlier, that's exactly what those are for. So that will be available when those come into the admin dashboard. You'll have a new learner report that you can pull that information from. And yes, that's absolutely his intention for that. And then I see you mentioned fish scale, very interested in that. Where is that being used? That is part of our fish hooks implementation. So inside of Pathways, when you create a phishing simulation, you have the option of choosing AI generated teachable moments. The teachable moment we generate, it's cross-referencing with NIST fish scale to come up with the cues that we show the end user through the generative AI. We also use those in our leveled difficulty scoring that you'll notice in the content library when you search for phishing templates by basic, intermediate, advanced difficulty. We also are scaling those based off of cues we detect with NIST fish scale. Any plans to enhance campaign actions page? Will there be a way to show the list of colleagues who clicked, enhanced, sent, etc.? Seems more than two than going to separate page. Campaigns action page. So we have the activities inside of Pathways, and we do offer some branching capabilities there. In the campaign overview page, there's obviously a lot more granular information available of what you can see about the specific campaign that you delivered. I do think ultimately more and more of that stuff we're trying to consolidate into Pathways so you don't have to bounce between different areas. But I'm not sure if I exactly answered that question or not, but that's my best guess on that one. Apologies. Any chance if we get similar version to 2005 State of the Fish was received in 24? Yeah, so we actually did release a new fishing as called I think fish. John, can you remember the name of it? I'm struggling to remember what the exact terms were, but you might remember what it's called.
Hook, line, and cybercrime.
That's right. I couldn't remember hook, line, and whatever the third word is, but yes, there's a new report available. It's in the content library, and we are publishing those regularly. There's also white papers such as the Human Factor 2025. There's other kinds of resources available. We are trying to provide a range of material for that. And also, if you're very interested in the state of the art with regard to template fail rates or industry fail rates, that is also just available in the platform now. So when you look at, for example, the admin dashboard, you have benchmarking performance. You can choose by industry. When you look at a phishing template inside our content library, you'll see the industry benchmark performance broken out. And that's actually live generated based on the data we're aggregating every day. All right. And then down the last minute here, last question. Are there any discussions for admins being able to impersonate a user account for support purposes? We do offer that obviously on our side from our customer manager perspective. I think for a learner dashboard, there's a real interest in that. So that's definitely good feedback. I would highly recommend submitting that. And I think that that's pretty much all the time we have for questions. So really, thanks for your time today. Thanks so much.